Welcome to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody speaking. My name is Ashley Harkness, and I am happy to be your host for this session of Toastmaster Time TV. But I am not alone here. I have Savitha Setlur with me, who is going to be introducing our speakers, who incidentally are going to be from a Gavel Club in Livermore, and they have been involved in a youth leadership program specifically for middle school and high schoolers, and this is an exciting program. And Savitha, I think you need to tell me a little bit more about it before we introduce the speakers.
Thank you, Ashley, for that kind introduction. Our speakers are Shruti, Ayush, and Rishi. My pleasure to introduce the first speaker, Shruti Adusumilli. She is a junior in Doherty High School, and she has a passion for photography, writing, and public speaking. Today, she will be speaking on the topic, Learn to Lead. Learn to Lead, Shruti Adusumilli.
From a young age, we are taught that there are two kinds of people in the world. There are leaders and there are followers. And like many other children, I was encouraged from the very beginning to become a leader. And in my case, that simply meant running to become the student council representative for my third grade class. After attending a few meetings, I started to feel something that I hadn't necessarily felt before. I felt powerful. Now that I had implemented leadership in the work aspect of my life, I decided it was time to implement it in the play. One day, as me and my friends were arguing about who was going to be it in the next game of tag at the park in front of our house, I came up with a brilliant idea. I turned my head to the crowd and yelled at the top of my lungs, "Last one to the play structure is it." And as if they had been put into a trance, all of the kids ran to the play structure in an effort to not be it. From that day on, I became the unofficial leader of the park, but that wasn't enough for me. I felt that I needed everybody else to know that I was their leader as well. So I decided to hold a park election, almost certain that I would win the position of president. But after the votes were tallied and the results were announced, I got the biggest shock of my 9-year-old life. I had lost. Instead, the girl who had won was my best friend. And although I was happy for her, I was extremely confused. As in my mind, she was not a leader. She was a follower. She was quiet, shy, and she simply listened to what everybody else told her to do. After throwing a temper tantrum, I decided that I should actually find out why I had lost, and I decided to ask one of the other kids. He bluntly told me that it was because I was too bossy. I never listened to what the other kids asked to play, and I simply made my own decisions. And in that moment, I learned something that I would never forget. There was a very significant difference between being a leader and being a person in power. In that instance, I did have power, but I did not have the qualities of a true leader. So I decided to make it a mission of my own to find out what it truly meant to be a leader, something that Toastmasters allowed me to do. And after a couple of years, I was able to narrow it down to 3 main things, the first being effective communication. Back in the age where carrier pigeon was our main source of communication, you had a little leeway when you wouldn't respond to a message right away. But now, when there's more social media platforms and mail servers than we can keep count of, there's no excuse for not getting back to someone. By effectively responding to messages and being a good communicator, you not only streamline the process, but you maintain transparency throughout your team. The second quality is being open-minded. I'm sorry to break it to you, but your idea isn't amazing. And even if it is amazing, it's most definitely not the best. By being open to other people's ideas, you make sure that whatever you're working on is the best it can be. Because everybody's ideas will come together to make the final product, and not only will everyone feel included, but your product will come out the best. The third quality, which I believe is the most important, is accountability, or as I like to call it, taking one for the team. When something goes wrong, it's extremely easy to just point to the person at your left and blame it on them. But a true leader will analyze how their own actions played into a failure to make sure that they don't repeat those actions again, rather than just saying it was someone else's fault. By taking the blame when necessary and seeing how your actions affected something, you not only make sure it doesn't happen again, but you grow as a leader. 7 years later, I'm glad to say that I'm no longer that 9-year-old dictator that I used to be, but I do have a lot of room to grow. I still have some trouble responding to messages that I don't want to, or listening to other people's ideas. But I have improved a lot, and I'm a strong believer in the fact that no matter what stage of your life you're in, you can also learn to lead. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Lessons learned, fantastic. Well, Savitha, this is a real interesting experience seeing these speakers come up with these ideas and how much they've grown. It really shows. Let's hear about who our next speaker is.
Our next speaker is Ayush Roy. Ayush Roy is a sophomore in Dublin High School, and his interests are reading, writing, and spending time with his friends. Today, he will be talking to us about his topic, a tool in the toolbox. A tool in the toolbox, Ayush Roy.
The year of 2016 held many important events of varying magnitude. The 2016 election, the passing of music star Prince, the revolution of artificial intelligence, and its expansive spread throughout our globe. But today, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to talk to you about an event that was just as powerful for me during the same year of 2016. And that event was me taking a step back and opening up my toolbox, evaluating it, and realizing that there's this one locked component within it that had to be unlocked. And that component, ladies and gentlemen, was my voice. Now, we all have access to our voices. We can use it day in and day out to communicate with our friends, participate in the classroom or office space. I could do that too. But where I lacked, or where I couldn't do it properly, was in front of a large audience, or any audience really. But yet here I am today, in front of all of you on this wonderful night, giving a speech. And that excites one very simple yet deep question. How? As I alluded to previously, this took place in the summer of 2016. This summer was very relaxed, no AP classes, summer homework, just me, my family, and the lack of school, which is great. In addition to that, my family and I frequented an institution, and this institution was not only prominent about itself, but the activities that took place within it. On one such average summer day, we were going to this institution, and I saw a poster, and this poster had 3 simple words on it. We make leaders. Now, that was perfect. Not only can I overcome this weakness within me, this lack of being able to speak in front of people, I can lead them too. Brilliant. So 2 weeks later, I went down to the institution and I underwent the YLP, or the Youth Leadership Program, interview. While this interview perhaps was not my best and I could do much better in today's date, it was passing for who I was at the time. 2 weeks later, I received the email saying I was in the YLP program, and thus 8 weeks of improvement began. 8 o'clock in the morning, I was a bit groggy. I went down. I wasn't groggy enough to believe that the coordinator walked up, sprinkle some fairy dust, say, "Congratulations, you all can speak now." I was expecting some guidelines, some how-tos, some what not to do, some what to do's. There was none of that. It was just people like you, like me, up at a lectern giving speeches. And they were evaluated not by the coordinator, who was perhaps the most qualified person in the room, but by, once again, my peers, those who sat next to me, those who sat around me. I thought, okay, maybe this session is a bit off. Maybe it's something special. But as I went through more and more of the YLP program, I realized, no, this is the norm. This is what's supposed to happen. And that's when it hit me. Speaking is not about being given a presentation on here's how you do it, here's how you don't do it. It has to come through repetition and through yourself. And Toastmasters stresses this initiative immensely. So it came from me. And by the end of the 8 weeks of the YLP program, I realized I actually enjoyed public speaking. It actually appealed to me. I loved being able to use my voice. I wanted more. So towards the end of the YLP finale, which was when we all got to showcase our newfound speaking abilities, there was a group of kids advertising for the Gavel Club. And this club was sent as the higher tier to the YLP. And I thought, beautiful, I can go in here. Like the YLP, it It was jarring. Like the YLP, it helped me immensely. And today's, ladies and gentlemen, I stand in front of you as the current president of the Gavel Club, but much more importantly, a speaker who finally unlocked his true voice. And this can be done through many outlets, but the outlet that helped me achieve this was the Toastmasters. And now going back to the Toolbox. The Toolbox was locked up, but I was able to turn the key and unlock it with the initiative of self-drive. Thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen, and have a wonderful night.
We see a young man who is searching for a lost component, his voice. And actually, I think he found it, don't you?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I think that's wonderful. So we have one more speaker. Please tell us who that will be.
The next speaker is Rishi Pappu. He is also a sophomore in Dublin High School. And today he will be speaking to us on My Journey to a Gavel Club. My Journey to a Gavel Club, Rishi Pappu.
You know, I can start off by summarizing my journey to the Gavel Club the same way as anybody else. I went to the interview, I did YLP, and then I joined the Gavel Club. It seems simple, but that is just not the truth. My journey to Gavel Club started off with my dislikes. I hate extracurricular activities, and especially those that were forced on me by my parents. So imagine my surprise when one morning I found out that my mom had signed me up for something called the Youth Leadership Program. I was upset. I threw a tantrum. I said, I'm not going to go. I don't want to go. This is not fair. Despite my refusal and hatred for this extracurricular activity, I ended up going to the interview 2 weeks later. That morning started off with my mom barging into my room and waking me up, yelling, Rishi, we're going to be late. You got to go. You got to go. I was completely confused. Late for what? I don't have any events or classes today. 2 minutes later, she comes back in and yells, for your YLP interview, let's go. And it was at this point that it dawned on me that, oh, I guess we're still doing this. So I got in the car, got ready, and we were on our way. Through the car ride, because this was a 15-minute car ride, tons of questions came to me. I was thinking about how I would do this. How would I respond to these questions? How would I talk? Who's going to interview me? How does this YLP thing work? And as I got there, I was met by, frankly, an intimidating lady who introduced herself as Savitha Setlur. And to me, this was the starting point of my career as a speaker. Just a few minutes before, I had watched my best friend go up and take his interview. This allowed me time to do nothing more than panic to the second level. I was freaking out. I had no idea how I was going to answer these questions. I was wondering, how do I formulate a response? In hindsight, this situation was completely ironic, considering that I was having trouble speaking at an interview for a public speaking class. So I went in and I gave my interview and I walked out. My mind a blur. I had no idea what was going to happen. I had just abruptly been woken up and I had gone to this interview. A few weeks later, I attended the YLP session. And again, I did not particularly like it. It meant I had to do work because I had to do some writing and I had to speak and I had to go up and do stuff. And I didn't particularly like this. But as I continued to go to the classes, I realized that there was actually a method to the madness, if you will. And I understood that this program was going to help me in more ways than I understood. I began to put more effort into my speeches. I began to go up to the lectern with confidence. My voice became louder, and I was able to speak with less filler words. overall, as a speaker, I had improved just because of a few short weeks of instruction. And then I joined the Gavel Club. The first Gavel Club meeting I went to was confusing. I had no idea what was going on. They had taught none of this at YLP. I was completely confused. And as I kept continuing to attend, I began to realize that it was not so different in that it allowed me to be better as a speaker through more rigorous standards. As I went through these various projects and speeches that I was tasked to complete, my speaking became better overall. And in January of 2017, we had elections for officer roles within the very same Gavel Club. And within this Gavel Club, I opted to run for president. And my speech put all my skills as a speaker, an efficient communicator, and a leader into that one presentation. And I think I can attribute all of that to Toastmasters. Thank you.
Talk about a person who has really grown from not wanting to do something to finding out how important it has been for you. But it's important also for us at Toastmaster Time to take a break. We have coming up a public service announcement. Don't go away because we will be right back.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease,
Freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Welcome back to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking. And boy, have we had an interesting show tonight. We're dealing with the Youth Leadership Program speakers, but we only got to hear their speeches. Now we're going to learn a little bit more about them. And to interview them is Savitha Setlur.
Hey Shruti, it's a pleasure to have you on the show representing the Youth Leadership Program. You have been one of my first students, and I would like to ask you, what has been your experience going from the first class to today?
Actually, going into the youth leadership program, I was already confident in my speaking skills, but I very quickly learned that there was a lot of room for improvement, not only in the bigger parts, but in the fine details of speaking. And since then, I feel like I've improved a lot.
After the Youth Leadership Program, what were your next steps, and how has this program been a continuous thing for you?
After the program ended, some of the other students in the program and I decided to go on and start a Gavel Club, which was basically an adult Toastmasters club, but for students. And we ran the club ourselves, and we had to go through the chartering process and the election process. And it was just a time of immense growth for me.
So having gone through all this, what would be your message to the rest of the audience who might be interested in joining a program like this?
I'd say that no matter where your experiences in public speaking land, you should very much try to get involved as much as possible, because the skills you learn in Toastmasters and public speaking are skills that you'll use for the rest of your life.
Thank you very much, Shruti, for that perspective. And now I would like to hand it back to Ashley.
Thank you, Savitha. What we hear is that the skills learned in the Youth Leadership Program continue on throughout their entire career, not just in the club that they're in, the Gavel Club, but also into things that will take them into college later on in life. From my own experience, I know that this can really be a benefit. The confidence that you gain, everything. And thank you very much for your interview with them. I keep hearing the same things coming from the speakers tonight. I hear that it was confidence, it was improvement, lessons learned, and the fact that they are realizing that the benefits that are attributed to this program are fantastic. So I need to ask you, you are the youth leadership coordinator. So what does that do?
A youth leadership coordinator is a Toastmaster himself or herself who runs the program. And when you're running the YLP, the 8 sessions are completely coordinated by that Toastmaster. But once they go into the Gavel Club, you're just there for them as a guide.
Well, let's step aside for a second here. The Youth Leadership Program is a separate program that is designed to have a beginning, go through 8 sections, and then have an end. But the Gavel Club itself is a real Toastmasters club for youth. So what they learn there include things like parliamentary procedure and also listening skills and also evaluation skills. At least they take what they learned in youth leadership and move it forward. Would you agree with that?
I would completely agree with that. What has happened in my experience is that the youth leadership program becomes a teaser, and the kids do not want to stop. They come and ask me, what do I do next? What is my next step? And that is when I guide them into the Gavel Club.
I see. And the Gavel Club can continue on until they've reached the age of 18, and then they can join the formal Toastmaster clubs themselves.
That is correct. And a wonderful thing is that they will get a certificate from Toastmasters International that can go on their college applications.
College applications are always a good place to be able to show extracurricular activities. That's what the YLP is, Youth Leadership Program. It's an extracurricular activity. But let's take another side on this. You must get some feedback from the parents of these youths. What kind of feedback do you get?
It is very gratifying. In fact, when I finished my first session and we had the grand finale, I had parents with tears in their eyes. They could not believe that their child has gone through just 8 weeks and they see a transformation in the child. And that was enough motivation for me to keep running this program.
I can understand that. As we heard tonight, there are some of our students that they already thought they had some good skills, but they improved. And some of them didn't want to have anything to do with it and suddenly realized the opportunity and were gratified to do that. I can only think that the parents were very grateful to that. That's a lot of your time too, and that's got to be extracurricular. How much of this do you actually do yourself? Do you have a lot of people with you?
Of course. As you know, in Toastmasters, we don't do anything all by ourselves. I have a team of fellow Toastmasters who run the continuous programs, and I'm always in search of Toastmasters who are willing to do that. And this is a win-win situation. It gives the Toastmaster credit for the Advanced Communicator Gold. It gives them some benefit. However, the real benefit comes from the thought that you're making a difference in the lives of the youth who are the future of tomorrow.
Well, let's clarify something, that this program isn't just for people who are associated with Toastmasters, but it can be anybody who even isn't with Toastmasters, and they can be part of the Youth Leadership Program. I also want to clarify that the organization of the YLP is through a Toastmasters club at their expense. So there's no expense attributed to the child or to the parents.
None at all. It is a free program that is offered as community service to the youth. And the good benefit, the side benefit of this is that the parents get interested. They said, we want to do that so we can help our child. And coming out of it is some adult Toastmasters club, and that's happened with us.
And then it goes on, and that's fantastic. Especially since now we have the family organized getting involved in it too. So I would ask you this, how many of the YLP programs in Livermore are going on right now?
We are going to be starting our 10th session in October.
In October. And this is at what is the location again?
The location is 1232 Arrowhead Avenue in Livermore.
And that is the
Hindu temple,
Hindu temple.
Hindu Community and Cultural Center.
And how do they help you in this particular endeavor?
First of all, they give us a free venue. They have also taken up the responsibility of sponsoring for the books, the workbooks that go for the YLP. And they're always supportive. Sometimes they provide snacks when we have grand finales.
Well, no, I like that idea very much. I like the snacks particularly. I imagine all of the participants do too. This program has actually graduated several people, hasn't it already? What is the feedback from them, let's say a year or so later when they return, when you see them again? What do they say?
As you saw how Shruti gave her interview, it was very gratifying to see how she has taken it to the next level. I also heard from her that she's using these skills outside of Toastmasters to volunteer in a non-profit organization helping some kids, abandoned girls in India.
Yeah, I heard that.
So there is more than just the local benefit of being a Toastmaster.
Okay, well, the fact is that this is a wonderful program, and I appreciate your efforts in this, and I congratulate all of the graduates and the future graduates that may well be coming. We're coming near to the end of the show, however, so I want to thank you, and it's now time for me to talk about Toastmasters and Toastmaster Time. The Toastmaster Time show is done at the Media Center in Palo Alto. We'd like to thank all of the people who have volunteered, they're all volunteers themselves, who has come down here to help us to put this show on and get the word out on what's going on. If you are looking for more information about Toastmasters in general, you might look at our website for the show, toastmastertime.com, and you might also go for toastmasters.org, which is the organization in itself, or to District D57TM, D57TM.com, which will give you that information. So for all of the people here at Toastmaster Time and all of the people who are on the show, I'd like to thank you all for coming and listening to all of the people who are talking all the time, and I can guarantee you they're going to continue talking and listening and learning and growing into the future. This is Ashley Harkness. Thank you very much. This is fake.